Your town, your station, your voice. Afternoons on Calon FM. Listen online at calon.fm.
It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show. It's the Andy Snowden Radio Show.
Now then, since 1972, the music of the Jam has been thrilling audiences all over the world. And in 2006, a collaboration with original members Rick Buckler and bassist Bruce Foxton, together with guitarist Russell Hastings, have been touring almost continuously with the fantastic From the Jam. Now, Russell Hastings, together with Bruce Foxton, have a brand new album entitled The Butterfly Effect, due for release this week on October the 28th, and along with a brand new single, She Said. I'll give the brand new single its Calon FM debut in a moment, but first of all, let's speak to Russell Hastings from the Jam. And Russell, I think it's fair to say the last couple of years have been a little bit of a nightmare for everybody. How's it been for you guys?
Probably the same as everybody else, really, but in different increments. It was okay to start with at the beginning of it all. Yeah. And then it got a bit boring and a bit sort of more concerning after that. And just watching everybody dissolve in front of us. We go back. Thankfully, we're back, and it's almost like as if it's never happened. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And was you good at? Did you find you were quite good at killing time? It became like an art.
Yeah, I was pretty good. I'm pretty good. I can be busy in the phone box I can, so I'm pretty good like that. Other people I knew, weren't so good at it. The best thing to do at the time was to not watch the news, because it was just deliberately there to depress you. In my opinion.
I completely agree. I was often saying to people, don't turn the news on if it's scaring you. Just leave it.
Yeah, it's just pointless. I was doing a radio interview the other day, and I walked into the station, and I walked up to the news presenter reader, and I said, "Why don't you ever read out the positive stuff?" Yeah. And she totally agreed with me. She said, "I totally agree." Yeah. So, where we're at today, didn't want to get I'm not going to get on a political rant at all, but the country's in a complete and utter mess, isn't it? Yeah. I've been sitting on the sidelines watching it and then thinking, what the hell is going on, man?
I know. It's incredible, really. And you must have thought, especially like everybody else in your profession, that it was never going to come back, but it seems we
didn't think that. We really did. Because our job really is to pull loads of people into one place. And considering they were all against that, it was. We never thought it would come back at all.
Yeah. Oh, I know. But luckily, hopefully, we've seen the back end of that now, so we can all crack on.
Yes, exactly. Onwards and upwards.
Absolutely. And talking of which, you've got a brand new album out. It's called The Butterfly Effect, due for release. We'll talk about that in a moment, if that's okay, because the album is with Bruce Foxton of the From the Jam. Yep. And the music of the Jam seems to me to be as popular today as it ever was. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think it's a very good comment. Fair comment is, longevity like the Beatles, really. Just keeps going on and on and on, and new generations are coming through and listening to it, and finding it, and which is great. And then to look out sometimes and see youngsters in their late teens, early 20s singing all the words back to you off of some of the most obscure stuff is a real treat. It's great. Yeah.
I mean, I've been trying to rack my brains over the last 48 hours, trying to think of a band like the Jam that kind of appealed to everybody. In hindsight, looking back, it didn't matter if you were whatever music you were into, whether you were a rocker or a mod or a punk even. Everyone seemed to enjoy the music of the Jam. It from your perspective, is that must be fair?
Yeah, I think it's a really fair comment. Much to the surprise of people, that I think that stands true. We played the Rebellion Festival back in the summer, and the Rebellion Festival is known as a big punk festival up in punk orientated anyway, certainly up in Blackpool. And we came out on stage in front of probably 6,000-7,000 there was, out on the seafront on the big stage. And, and everybody was digging it, so it was a great, didn't know how we were going to go down. But it's not like the old days, so to speak, it's sort of like more, there's a cross-section of society and, just people are into great music, I guess, or into music, whatever their tastes are. I think it's, it's admirable that people still come to the gigs, live gigs, and have such a great time and are so into it the way that they are.
Definitely. And you're, the thing I like most about speaking to people like yourself is I get to research quite in-depthly about what you do. And yesterday I had 3 or 4 rather enjoyable hours sitting in front of YouTube watching some of the footage. It's a terrific night out from the Jam. It must be a great experience just to be in the hall at the time.
Yeah, we're very lucky. It has been Bruce and myself, and of course Rick were together for. Rick was with us from 2000. I was with Rick originally in 2004, and then he left in 2009. Rick Buckler, and then there was Rick, Bruce, and myself. And of course, having been all over the world and in some amazing places to play these great songs, you look back, I looked at, so it's easy to pick up the big ones like Sydney and, New York and places like that. But when I look down to like Washington, DC and, and Singapore and places like that, and you go all over the world and that response is still exactly the same and that passion is there with everybody,
Yeah, 100%. And you... I read you were a big fan of the Jam before you joined, which must be quite an extraordinary thing.
Yeah, it was, and I was a big fan. Pretty much, I guess, as much as that Paul was a big fan of the Small Faces and stuff like that. From that and the Beatles. Because Paul was very much into that, and that's what sort of steered him, and I guess that steered me from an early age. And I was very musically orientated anyway from a very young age, and picked the guitar up very young. And not that you'd know, because I'm not that brilliant, but I can handle it. As Bruce says, well, you've done all right up till now. But it's been a great experience. It's been a real honour to be accepted by the fans as much as I have. And because, let's face it, it's a hot potato gig to have. And nobody thought it was possible to do it. And if it was done, I don't know how it's done. I don't know how I've done it. I don't know how I've come across to do it. There's been no magical formula.
Yeah.
There's been no contrived formula anyway. And certainly. And it just works because it works, I guess. And I guess that's where you leave it. But it's just been a thrill for us and for the fans, and to see Rick and Bruce and to bring those great songs back to life again. Over the years has been a real joy.
But as you say, to take this place of such an iconic player as Paul Weller, once you've got over the fans on your side, then that's 100% of the job done, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I do remember coming out years ago. They'd be taking a look at Rick and Bruce first, and then they'd, have a look at 4 or 5 songs in, and then they think, right, who's this fella over here?
Yeah.
Let's have a look let's really investigate him. And so that gave me enough time to be able to get out, warm up a bit on stage, get over the nerves a little bit, and get on with it, really. And I've never been Paul. I've always been me, Russell, on stage, which has been great.
Yeah.
I think it would be completely wrong to be, to try and be Paul in any shape or form, because I'm not, and we've never been out to try and be anything other than Rick, Bruce, and myself playing the Jam songs.
Yeah.
And that's how it was, And of course, it's now Mikey Brandon, or it used to be a wonderful old Mark Brzezicki from Big Country, who was on the drums for 5 years. He was with us for. But yeah, it's been a great thing to do. It's been a great experience, and fantastic songs. What a great writer Paul was. Paul and Bruce and Rick in the same room when you got them all together.
Yeah.
What a great team that was. When you look back, the energy that they gave off, incredible.
Yeah. There's a guy who I've interviewed. He when Rick Parfitt from Status Quo died, and they brought this lad in from Ireland. His name's Richie Malone, and he took a lot of stick for a while, but he seems to have brought everybody round. And he said to me the same as you: don't try and emulate the other person. No. Be yourself. Then that's the best.
Yeah, there's many people that have taken places of key members of bands. If taken place is the correct word, I don't know, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And many people, and I know I'm good friends with Baz from the Stranglers, and we were at a wedding a little while ago together, funny enough. And he said the same to me, he said, we've both had the same gig. He sort of stepped in for Hugh Cornwall and I stepped in for Paul. And he's been well accepted by the fans over the years,
Yeah.
And it's been exactly the same position for Baz. And Baz has carried on and done such a great job over the years. He's been Baz, he's not been Hugh. I've been Russell and I've not been Paul. So, yeah, I get that.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, let's talk about this new album then. Otherwise, I'll get into trouble. The new album's called the Butterfly Effect, due out next week. Well, the 28th of October.
Yes.
It's with, as I say, the bassist of the original Jam. He's Bruce Foxton, and for you to, well, I mean, you've gone from admiring somebody to playing with them, and now he's your best mate. It must be incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, funny enough, we were at Ricky Gervais last night. We went to see Ricky Gervais in Woking all together. Me, his wife, my wife, and my two boys. And, we went for dinner first. And, we were chatting about the album coming out now. We were looking forward to it. And, me and Bruce have been together now a long time, in partnership, working partnership, as well as a friendship partnership. And we just work together really, really well. It's just very odd how we work together. I don't know what that is that makes it happen so well, but Bruce is a great player. Let's face it. And the fact is, I forget that when I'm playing with him because I've played with him for so long. 17 years I've been with Bruce, and he's a great player. Always brings so much to the table as far as our bass lines are concerned and structure. He's and this album is, it's such a great joy to have played this album. And we're reading a couple of reviews that have just come out yesterday in some of the mags, which I'm really chuffed about. So the proof is in the pudding when it comes out. But it's just a great collection of happy pop songs, really. Nothing more complex than that, and that's what I like about it. You just load of influenced tracks over the years and players that have influenced certainly my life ever since I was born, which is 57 years ago, ranging from George Harrison right across the board, really, to Chris Difford, Glenn Tilbrook, all those sort of people and writers have always influenced my sort of playing and songwriting, and hopefully it's come out in the album.
Well, I had a cheeky listen to it yesterday. It's a fantastic bit of work. Is it completely born out of lockdown? Did it beginning to end?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, we were, once we got in the studio, we were allowed to go in. We were all testing in cars outside. I remember that. It was ridiculous. We were all winding the windows down and going, "What have you got?" And they're going, "Oh, well, let's see your negative test and all that." So. Yeah. So we could get in the studio and work together without ridiculous masks, because recording a vocal with a mask on would have been a bit hard. But so it was born out of lockdown. It was sort of long overdue, really, because the last album before that was Smash the Clock, which went down really well, and that came out in 2016. So this album really should have been out around about 2017, but here we are. 5 years later, pandemic and all that passed, thankfully. But it was born out of frustration and boredom, really, from everybody has got a lockdown album in them, haven't they? Yeah. But I found it very difficult to sit down and write to start with, because I was sort of concerned about what was going on in the future. Where were we? And I'm not one of those writers that can just write when I'm anxious. I don't like that. I don't like that feeling. So sort of steered me off. And then when a bit of positivity came in, because I'm a positive person, really. And that's what comes across in the album, I think. It's just colourful, poppy, summer sort of vibe.
But I've spoken to a few people that have written albums, as you say. It seems like, I mean, for musicians, I suppose that's the only thing you could do. You know, you weren't allowed out to play or anything. So, when I say out to play, I mean go and do gigs. But they said writing over Zoom was the most frustrating thing because...
Oh, it's ridiculous. We didn't actually try that because we just I used to, pick up my phone, record it, send it to Bruce. He'd send it back with a bit of a bass line over the top of it from a computer over the top in a, very, very basic, and then send it back to me. I go, yeah, I like that bass line, we'll use that, and then crack on and moved on to the next one. Then we'd get a batch of songs, about 5 of them together. We'd spend 3 days recording the back line, drums, bass guitars, and a bit of a guide vocal, and then move on. And that's how we did the whole album, then go back and do vocals when we could and when we fancied it, and then eventually the album was finished. So it was a little bit, we chipped away at it, really.
Yeah. The first single was called Lula. That's a belter. And the second one, which isn't out until next month, which I'm going to play in a moment, it's called She Said. Both available to download now. Awesome, man. Awesome. I can't tell you.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that's nice. So it's a catchy tune. I knew that one when I come up with the initial riff, and I was thinking, there's something about... When I was writing it, I had to sort of check that I'd heard it before from somebody else, but I'm sure there's been other rundowns like that. But, and in the end, I'm just seeing the video brushes for it at the moment, which is like some 50s dance hall swing, dancing, grooving, jiving, and it sort of really goes well with it. And it's just so, when I listen to it as well, I think, and it's got a great mandolin solo in the middle of it, which was done by our producer, Al Scott, that was, he produced The Levellers, because it was all recorded at the Levellers studio down in Brighton.
Right.
And The Levellers producer, he produced Level in the Land, and he's done all the Levellers albums over the last sort of 32 years. So he said, I said, I fancy a little bit of boogie-woogie piano in the middle of it. He went, well, I know a boogie-woogie player up in London. And he went, but I do play mandolin. And I went, in you go. So I shoved him in there. He went in, he come up with it, and there it was. And that's the solo that you hear. It was just as quick as that, really. So it all fell into place really quick. So it's just a lovely, catchy little Beatlesque type song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and just you saying that, I mean, it must be so much fun putting a track together or an album together. I mean, at times it must be frustrating, but when that kind of thing happens, it must be terrific.
It is, but we didn't find any frustration with this album at all. I've got to be honest. This album just fell into place, and we used to go to the studio like anybody goes to work in the mornings. We'd go there at 10 o'clock in the morning. We'd leave about 5:30, 6 o'clock to miss the traffic. And it was just such an ambient, very lovely vibe down at Metway Studios in Brighton. And it was just so easy. And the producer and the engineers, they all just knew their stuff and made life so easy. And we'd go in with some ideas, capture them, and they all stayed. So that we never come across any hiccups with this one, which was the only album that we've just gone in and just recorded it, listened back to it the next day and loved it, So it was, you can't ask for any more than that, really.
Yeah. And there's a plan to release it on vinyl next April.
Yes.
The vinyl thing, it's come back, and there's a massive love for it, isn't there?
There is, so much so that it's got to be April and it doesn't come out in October. That there's just such a massive queue that built up through the pandemic, through manufacturing, and. But yeah, vinyl, everybody wants vinyl, which is a great thing to have in your hand because, let's face it, when you download something, what have you got in your hand? Nothing.
Yeah.
So, and I hate that, it's even now when I download something, I feel robbed.
Yes,
robbed and cheated, I like to open the packaging, and because when you get something like, let's just say you get an iPhone or whatever phone you've got, and it comes in a wonderful package, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The box, it's the whole process, the whole opening of it. And that's what the vinyl experience gave me. And, it's very popular. And, like I say, it comes out next April is the queue. That's the queue we're in at the moment. It comes out in red, black and blue, different 3 different vinyl colours.
Right. I know exactly what you mean, because, I mean, since the advent of smart speakers, you don't even have to download anything anymore. You could just ask your device in the corner of the room to play it, and it is something quite cold about that you sort of, I know it's cheaper, but...
Oh, it's just, I don't know, it's just something, particularly when I see the royalty statements, because, they're 0.00001 pence or something, for something on streaming, and it's like, what? So it's almost like you just don't leave the front door open and come in and rob me,
Yes, I know. I've always thought that, especially with Spotify and all those things.
That's it. Yeah, I'm a big. People say, "Have you got Spotify?" And I go into one when they ask me that. I go, "No, I haven't. It just robs people like me."
Yeah,
I've got to get over myself, really.
And you're basically, people
giving it away.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
but before I let you go, you're from the Jam. I mean, you're still on tour. You're touring until the middle of next year. It must be lovely to be back to normal. Yeah, it's great. It's great to get out there and be on the road. We're doing the Beats to Render tour at the moment, and as long as illness keeps away, we'll be there. Sometimes colds and flus keep you off, but we'll be there. We're going right the way through till Christmas and finish it in London at Christmas, and then start again in January. Fantastic. And something that's just jumped up at me from my notes. It's the 40th anniversary of the final Jam tour in '82, and you're having a big gig to celebrate that on December the 3rd. Yeah. Right? That's at the Brighton Centre, It's got the Buzzcocks, Big Country, who were the original support for that tour, and ourselves. And, tickets are available now, which is... I did hear they were really flying out for that particular one, I guess, because we've got Big Country on the bill with us, which would be great to have Mark and Bruce on board again with us. And, love the boys anyway. It's great to have them around. Good fun. We've all often done a few shows together in the past, so looking forward to that one. Fantastic. Russell Hastings, it's been an absolute treat to speak to you, mate. Thanks ever so much for that. I really appreciate it. My pleasure. Marvellous. And could you do me the honour of introducing She Said for us? My name's Russell Hastings, and you are just about to listen to the new single called She Said. Brilliant. Cheers, mate. You take care. Thanks, Andy. Bye, mate. Bye. Bye, mate.
So the brand new album entitled The Butterfly Effect from Russell Hastings and Bruce Foxton of The Jam will be released this Friday, the 28th of October. Marvellous.
Your town, your station, your voice. Andy Snowden, Calon FM.
Such a beautiful day.